Stay home, save lives.
Here we are with the topic from a 10th standard textbook, 7th chapter, Control and Coordination. Control and Coordination. Now, this chapter is a chapter where basically we discuss about what is the role of the nervous system as well as the role of the hormonal system. So in the different videos connected with this topic, we'll divide it into a number of parts, and one such part is in this video, that is about reflex action. This term reflex is something very common, which we not as biologically but otherwise also we say. Like we say, my action is a reflex. Now when you say reflex action means what? It is a sudden action. Sudden action, spontaneous action, which takes place automatically without involving the thinking process of the brain. When you can pick up number of such examples. Like one example is, I touched a hot object and I reflexively removed it back. Now, reflexively removing it back means it's a spontaneous action, sudden action, where you have not involved the thinking process of the brain. We all know brain is the thinking portion, which is a complex network of neurons. But without the involvement of the brain, without giving a thought whether you have to remove or not, whether your hand will get burnt or not, you're just removing it. Similarly, when you hear some loud noise coming from any direction which is not pleasing to you, so immediately you close your eyes. You close your ears. So when you close your ears, this is again a reflex action, which you are doing it without involving the brain. Right? Now, when we say reflex action is actually controlled, which is a spontaneous action which is controlled by the intricate network of neurons, which is passing the signals from one part of the body to another and bringing the signals back. Basically to control or to coordinate. Why we need to coordinate? Because coordination is basically how we need to respond to the changes in the environment. Any change in the environment will be called as stimulus, and the body's reaction to it will be called as response. Now, this reaction can be involving with the brain or can be without the brain. Now, when we say reflex action, it does not involve the thinking process. In this case, in the reflex action, there's a sort of an arc developed. Now, this reflex arc has evolved in animals. Why it has evolved in animals? Because thinking process of the brain is not that highly evolved. Because some of the animals don't have an intricate or a complex network of neurons. And to deal with the changes in the environment or to respond with the changes in the environment, they also need an effective and an efficient process. And that efficient and effective process, which is quick and fast, is actually reflex action, which will take place through reflex arc. Now, for developing a reflex arc, for example, this is a hot plate. Now, when I put my hand on the hot plate, the receptors present in my skin will capture the stimulus. What is the stimulus? The stimulus is the hot object. Now, the receptors present that is the tactoreceptors present in my skin will come into contact with the hot object, and the signals will send to the spinal cord as well as to the brain through the neurons, which are called as sensory neurons. So from receptors, the information or the signal or the impulse is going to sensory neuron. From the sensory neuron, it will pass to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord, it will go to the brain also. But by the time the brain starts the thinking process, the information is brought back from the spinal cord. The spinal cord is present at your back. It is protected by the vertebral column on your back, right? So by the time the thinking process of the brain starts, the spinal cord sends the impulse back to the effector organ through another set of neurons, which are called as receptor neurons. So these receptor neurons are bringing the impulse from the spinal cord towards the effector. Now, when I say effector means what? The muscles present in your hand. So again, I repeat the same. The hot plate, which is a stimulus, passes the stimulus to the tactoreceptors which are present in the skin. The signals are passed through the sensory neurons to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord the information goes to the brain for the thinking process, and meanwhile the relay neurons will pass it on and to the motor neurons, and from the motor neurons it will pass to the effector, and these effectors are the muscles, and immediately you pull your hand back, and the pulling of your hand back is actually a control of the muscles. So I'm pulling the hand back with the help of the muscle. Now, who is instructing the muscles to pull the hand back? Not the brain. It is the impulse coming from the spinal cord. So the action becomes a quick response. Followed? So this is the role of a reflex action. Anything, any situation, any stimulus which is perceived by the receptors is immediately responded by the action of the spinal cord by constructing a reflex arc. Now this is, you can do at home. You can construct as many number of reflex arcs, like for example, construct a reflex arc on when the dust particles enter your eyes. Right? Hope you will be able to do. Thank you.